What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today I'm going to be showing you 3 combos that you need to know to play the Odion deck. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come burn notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards. If you guys like, check out the deck profile used in this video. As always, it is down in the description down below for every test hand and combo video, so definitely check that out. So without further ado, let's get straight on into the combos. So for our first combo, guys, we're going to start off with Anubis the Last Judge and any card we can set to our side of the field. Now this card does not have to be Apopus the Swamp Deity. It can be any spell or any trap in the entire deck that we can set in our back row to be able to get Treasures of the King's effect to go off. But this actual combo is going to end on multiple points of interaction and negates, which is insane. So for our first play, we're going to actually use our copy of Anubis the Last Judge to be able to send it to the graveyard so we can actually add from our deck to our hand the Man with the Mark, which is literally Odion. It's so cool to actually see this card in this deck. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to go ahead and normal summon the Man with the Mark to our side of the field. And if this card is normal or special summoned, we can actually take a Temple of the Kings or a spell or trap card that mentions it from our deck and either add it to our hand or send it to the graveyard, which if we don't have it, we're always going to add our copy of Treasures of the Kings, our field spell. And this card has the ability, when this card is activated, you can actually set an Apopus trap from your deck. And this card becomes Temple of the Kings while it's in the field spell zone, and once per turn if you have 2 or more set cards on your field or trap card in your graveyard, you can actually add a monster that mentions Temple of the Kings from your deck to your hand, which is an awesome ability to help us get to some really cool cards. So what we're going to do is go ahead and activate our copy of Treasures of the King. And once we activate Treasures of the King, it's going to instantly let us set to our side of the field a copy of Apopus the Serpent, which is one of the most powerful cards in the entire deck because this card ends with so many plays because it actually helps us get to our other Apopus trap cards. So we're going to go ahead and set this card to our side of the field. Then we're going to set our any other 1 card in our hand to our side of the field as well, which will meet the conditions for our copy of Treasures of the King to actually let us add a monster from our deck to our hand that mentions Temple of the Kings, which the best target in this situation is actually the new version of Serket, the Merciless Scorpion of Serket. And this card is super easy to summon to your side of the field because while you control Temple of the Kings, you can actually banish a level 10 or higher monster from your hand or deck, and then you get to special summon this card to your side of the field. So what's actually an amazing combo piece in the deck is a hand trap, which is actually Nibiru. So we can just banish our copy of Nibiru out of our deck to be able to special summon to our side of the field our copy of a Merciless Scorpion of Serket. And when this card's on our side of the field, once per turn during your main phase, you can actually add a Temple of the King or a spell card that mentions it from our deck to our hand. Which in this case, we're going to actually add Temple of the Kings, the original one, which is so cool that they actually made it so you can play the original one in this deck as a combo piece. So this point, we're going to add it to our hand, and then we're going to activate it on our side of the field. And this card's unique ability is you can activate 1 trap the turn it was set. So we're actually going to activate our copy of our Apopus the Serpent on our side of the field. And once we do, this card is really unique because you special summon this card as a normal monster. It's a Reptile Earth level 4 with 1600 attack and 1800 defense, and it's still treated as a trap card. Then you can set an Apopus trap from your deck, except to copy this card to your side of the field, which is going to help us get to a copy of Apopus the Swamp Deity, which actually is our first negate in this combo. So we're going to set this card to our side of the field, and at this point, we're actually going to overlay our copy of Apopus and the Man with the Mark, because this card is a level 4 monster on our side of the field, into a copy of Gallant Granite. Gallant Granite is awesome in this combo because now we can actually detach our copy of Apopus the Serpent to the graveyard to be able to add from our deck to our hand our copy of our Lord of the Heavenly Prison, which is going to protect our back row, which is awesome. And on a separate chain, the effect of our Apopus the Serpent will actually go off to add from our deck to our hand the original Embodiment of Apophis, which is so cool to actually add this card to our hand. And this card is such a nostalgic card. This card is so cool to be able to use in this particular combo, and it's such a nostalgic card to be able to use in this deck. So at this point, we can go ahead and reveal our copy of Lord of the Heavenly Prison if we want to protect our back row, so we can summon it later, or we can just hold it in our hand for now. We're actually going to end up with a bunch of back row on our side of the field. So at this point, what we're going to do is go ahead and link summon away our copy of our Merciless Scorpion and our Gallant Granite to actually make a copy of Silo Hat Rabbit. Silo Hat Rabbit is awesome to be able to make in this combo, because at this point, Silo Hat Rabbit will go off, and we can actually set our copy of Statue of Anguish pattern, which is going to give us multiple pops on our side of the field, and then we can actually set our copy of our Apophis to our side of the field, and we can reveal the Lord of the Heavenly Prison in our hand if we choose to, so we can actually use this card for a little bit of protection if we want to. So at this particular point, I'm going to show you guys exactly what you've established. It doesn't look like a lot, but I promise it is, and it's going to help you control the board insanely well. So at the beginning of your opponent's turn, we're going to go ahead and activate our copy of our Statue of Anguish pattern. So once we activate our copy of Statue of Anguish pattern, this card, every time we summon one of our trap monsters, is going to pop one card on our opponent's side of the field. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to activate second, and there is a particular order you want to activate these. You activate your copy of Embodiment of Apophis on your side of the field. So now we pop one card with our copy of Statue of Anguish pattern, and when we activated Statue of Anguish pattern, our copy Silo Hat Rabbit can also pop a spell or trap on the field. So we have 2 pops on our side of the field, and then we also have our copy of Apophis the Swamp Deity, and this is the card you want to activate last, unless you absolutely need this card, because this card has the ability that during the main phase, you can special summon this card as a normal monster that's a Reptile Earth, level 6, 2000 attack, 2200 defense, and this card is also a trap card. Then you can negate the effects of face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of other continuous traps you control until the end of the turn. So at this point, we have 2 other continuous traps on our side of the field. So this card is a double negate, and our copy of Statue of Anguish pattern goes off and pops an additional card, because this card is not once per turn because it's a super old card. So at this point, we have 1, 2, 3 pops. And then we also have this that is a double negate on our side of the field. And then depending on what we have set, if it is another copy of the Swamp Deity, we can use that to get us an additional pop and more negates. And we have our copy of Lord of the Heavenly Prison in our hand that we can also use if we want to be able to summon out and then set the exact card we want to our side of the field. Depending on what we're attacking into the deck, you can set whatever you want. You can summon it, or you can just use it to protect your back row, but it's really, really good in this build. And this is an insane board to actually establish, because you're guaranteed that as long as you start with a copy of Anubis the Last Judge and a copy of any card you can set to your side of the field, this card is just a blank card, you can actually get this insane board to be able to control the field. So for our second combo, guys, we're going to start off with the Man with the Mark and any +1 spell or trap card, which we're just going to use our copy of Apophis the Swamp Deity for this combo, but it could be any card that we can set to our back row, and we're going to get an insane board using just these 2 cards in our hand. But this card could be any card, so it's basically more like this, which is really, really insane. But we're just going to have these 2 cards in our hand to make an insane board. So what we're going to do is go ahead and normal summon out our copy of the Man with the Mark. Now, once we get our Man with the Mark on our side of the field, its effect is going to go off to let us take a Temple of the Kings or a spell or trap card that mentions it from our deck to our hand, and then add it to our hand or send it to the graveyard, which we're always adding if we don't have it, Treasures of the King. Now we're going to go ahead and activate our Treasures of the King on our side of the field, which is going to let us set to our side of the field our Apophis the Serpent. Now once we set it to our side of the field, we can set our card in our hand, which again can be any spell or trap in the entire deck that we can set to our side of the field. So we're going to set our copy of Swamp Deity to our side of the field, and now we have 2 cards set in our back row, so we're going to be able to use the effect of Treasures of the King to be able to add our copy of Merciless Scorpion of Serket to our hand. This card is so cool. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and use our copy of Merciless Scorpion, since we do control Temple of the King, to banish a hand trap, which is Nibiru, because it's a level 10 or higher monster, to be able to actually special summon Merciless Scorpion to our side of the field. It's insane that you can literally use Nibiru as a combo piece in this deck, because it's so consistent to be able to do this particular combo. Now we're going to use the effect of Merciless Scorpion to be able to add the original Temple of the Kings from our deck to our hand, as it adds either a Temple of the Kings or a spell that mentions it from your deck to your hand. We're then going to activate our Temple of the Kings on our side of the field to be able to activate on our side of the field our copy of Apopus the Serpent, which is going to go off and let us set to our side of the field a copy of the original, or the copy of Apopus the Swamp Deity. We're going to get the original one in just a second as well. So now at this point, we're going to go ahead and overlay both of these on our side of the field to be able to make a copy of Gallant Granite. And again, we're going to detach from our copy of Gallant Granite, specifically the copy of Apopus the Serpent, to be able to add from our deck to our hand our copy of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. It's awesome. This card is actually a rock monster. We can use it this way. Now we're going to use the Apopus the Serpent's effect to be able to add from our deck to our hand our copy of the embodiment of Apopus. I love that about this card. If it just touches the graveyard, you get to add the original embodiment of Apopus into your hand. And it's so cool that they've actually incorporated in this deck the copy of Temple of the Kings and the original embodiment of Apopus as part of your combos in this deck. And it's just so nice for this deck. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and link away both our copies of our monsters on our side of the field to actually make a copy of Silo Hat Rabbit. And Silo Hat Rabbit's effect will go off, letting us set to our side of the field our copy of our Statue of Anguish pattern. And then we can again set to our side of the field our embodiment of Apopus, reveal our Lord of the Heavenly Prison, and then pass over to the opponent with this insane board that is pretty much the same as the first board, but I wanted to show you guys exactly how consistent this board is to be able to make in this deck, and I have a really cool thing to show you guys about this particular board as well. So what we're going to do with this particular board is we do have the copy of the Statue of Anguish pattern that we're going to activate during the beginning of the opponent's turn, just like before. Then we're going to activate our copy of Embodiment of Apopus to be able to pop 2 cards on our opponent's side of the field to spell our trap, and another card. And then we also have our copy of our Swamp Deity that we can activate on our side of the field to basically use it as a negate and a pop, which is really, really insane. So at this point, when our opponent goes for their turn and they finish their turn because we've controlled the board so much that they pretty much cannot play, we're going to get our turn. And at this point, we're going to draw for turn, and we're going to be able to basically tag these 2 monsters out for an awesome fusion monster, and we can actually step into a copy of Divine Serpent Apopus. Now you're wondering why I can summon this card without even using a fusion spell, but this card is really, it must either be fusion summoned or special summoned by tributing 2 Apopus monsters on your side of the field, and once per turn you can target 3 Apopus traps with different names in your graveyard and set them back to your side of the field, and once per turn if a trap card is activated, you can actually destroy 1 card your opponent controls, which is so cool that you can just basically target 1 card your opponent controls and just basically destroy it with your copy of your Divine Serpent. So what we're going to do with this particular combo is we're going to actually use our copy of our Divine Serpent to be able to set back to our side of the field all 3 of the different Apopus cards, which is so cool that in this particular combo, you can actually set all 3 of these back to your side of the field, so you can do all of your plays all over again. And we still have the copy of Lord of the Heavenly Prison that we can show to the opponent to basically just give us a little bit of protection, and we can just keep going in for game with this particular board, which is so cool. So for our third combo, guys, we're going to start off with Treasures of the King, plus a copy of Apopus the Swamp Deity. And Apopus could be any other card in the entire deck that we can actually set to our back row, just like before, but this board is going to establish an insane board similar to our previous boards, but just a little bit different. But I wanted to show you guys exactly how consistent this deck is, that by having any one of our Odion cards between Treasures, Anubis, or the Man with the Mark, plus a card we can set to our side of the field, we can establish some insane boards, and it's why this deck is so consistent. So what we're going to do is go ahead and activate Treasures of the King on our side of the field, and use the effect of Treasures to be able to set to our side of the field our copy of our Apopus the Serpent. Now at this point, we're just going to go ahead and set our any one card from our hand to our side of the field, and we're going to go ahead and activate our copy of Treasures to be able to add our copy of Anubis from our deck to our hand. Now the reason we're able to actually add Anubis is because this card has the ability of once per turn, if you have 2 or more set cards on your field or a trap card in the graveyard, you can add a monster that mentions Temple of the Kings from your deck to your hand. And this card specifically does mention Temple of the Kings in its text, which is so cool, which is actually a procedure for special summoning itself back in the graveyard, as it has the effect that it cannot be normal summon or set. It must first be special summoned from your hand or your graveyard. We have 3 or more cards in your graveyard with different names that are Temple of the Kings, and or trap cards by placing 2 of them on the bottom of the deck in any order. Which is so cool that this card can recover cards while also bringing out a 3k monster to your side of the field. So what we're going to do is go ahead and discard this card or send it to the graveyard to add our copy of the Man with the Mark. So then we're going to normal summon Man with the Mark, and this time we're going to add a little bit of a different card because we already have our treasures. We're actually going to use this effect to be able to add the original Temple of the Kings from our deck to our hand. Now at this point, we can actually activate a trap card the same turn it was set, which is going to be our copy of our Apopus the Serpent. Now our Apopus the Serpent is going to go off and actually let us set a copy of the Swamp Deity to our side of the field, which is really nice. Now at this point, we're going to go ahead and link this card away because this card actually special summons itself as a normal monster, so we can actually link it away for a copy of Link Spider, which is great to be able to summon this card out because now we have 2 effect monsters on our side of the field. But our copy of Serpent is not done there. We can actually use our copy of our Serpent to be able to actually add from our deck to our hand our copy of Embodiment of Apopus from our deck to our hand because it did touch the graveyard, which we can then set to our side of the field, which is great. Now we can go ahead and link away these 2 cards to be able to actually summon out a copy of Silhouette Rabbit to our side of the field, which is basically this deck's boss monster, and then we can use the effect of Silhouette Rabbit to be able to set to our side of the field our copy of Anguish Pattern, which is great because we basically established close to the same board minus the copy of Lord of the Heavenly Prison off of a copy of Treasure of the King. And with this particular combo, again, you're going to want to activate your copy of your Statue of Anguish Pattern first. It's very important that you activate this card at the beginning of your turn, so every time you activate one of your trap monsters, you're going to get a pop. This card is a once per turn spell trap pop, and then you also have all of your different Apopus cards that you can actually use. So you can use your copy of your Apopus the Swamp Deity, but you always want to activate your copy of Embodiment of Apopus first, so you get the pop and then the spell trap pop, and then you get the double negate off your copy of your Swamp Deity and a pop as well. And then also, depending on what else you have set, you can use your copy of your other Swamp Deity if you do have it, or depending on what else you have. It could be an Imperm that you have that you can activate to basically just stop your opponent. Make sure you don't summon it in the same column, but you want to be able to basically just use this card to be able to pop a card on the field, and it's really, really good to be able to do that. And again, on the follow-up, you can basically turn both of these monsters into a copy of the Divine Serpent. So on the follow-up, during the next turn of your turn, after you've drawn, you can basically just use these 2 to step into your copy of Divine Serpent, use Divine Serpent's effect to be able to set back to your side of the field all 3 of your different serpents, so you can use them all over again. And now when you activate a card, you get a double pop because you get the effect of your Anguish Pattern, and you get this once per turn as many times as you can activate trap cards. You can basically pop cards for trap monsters, and this is once per turn. So you have, for the first activation of a trap monster on this particular turn, you're going to get a spell trap pop, a pop, and another pop. So you get 3 pops off of 1 activation, which is actually insane. But this is kind of what you want on turn 3 to help you go in for game. So that's going to do for this one, guys. I hope you did learn something about this deck. Odion is such a fun deck to actually play because you get to establish so many trap monsters in your back row to just control the board with cards like Anguish Pattern to pop multiple cards on the field, and then summon out some really cool nostalgic cards like your copies of your Apopus monsters and even their new forms. And as always, if you guys would like to check out the deck profile used in this video, it is down in the description down below. It is well worth the watch because there's all sorts of spicy text in that build. So that's gonna do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.